Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex, Season 9, Episode 50 of Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. And Dave, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Can you help me out at all?
Yeah, the ending of that, I told someone on Twitter last night, it's been probably close to 20 years since I've gotten kind of, I guess highly emotionally attached during games. Normally I guess, especially since started blogging and all, you find yourself becoming a little less emotionally attached to these games, and Lord knows, we've seen quite a few exciting ones over the years. But yesterday, the final couple of drives of that game, I did find my heartbeat racing quite a bit in that one. What a tale of two halves that was.
Yeah, Steelers get the win 20-16 over Jacksonville, move to 7-2-1 on the season. Before I forget, we have a new intro, as I'm sure you guys have heard. I want to thank reader DZ Bars. You can follow him at DZ Bars. Really cool intro, really appreciate. Got several submissions, but that was just the one that we decided upon. So thank you to that person for that. Yeah, Dave, this one, did you think they were going to lose the game? I know it's probably an easy question to ask when it was 16-0. Did you think it was over, or were you still holding on to hope given the Steelers' history of everything's been a comeback?
Well, anytime you have Ben Roethlisberger involved and it wasn't, face it, it was 9-0 at 16-0 at one point. I think after he threw that interception in the end zone, my hope started to fade a little bit. But, look, that's why you got to play these things out. I understand people getting upset, on the Twitter machine and there were several people calling for Dobbs to get into the game. And, without a doubt, it wasn't looking good, especially on into the fourth quarter there. But at what point did you think, okay, maybe they can pull this off?
I'm not sure if there was a singular point. I think Ben made a good notation at the end of the game that Juju catch when it was, 16-6, I think, before setting up the Vance touchdown, that back shoulder fade against Jalen Ramsey was kind of the one in his mind that kind of got things going and set the wheels in motion. So probably then you felt like if you can get a score there, if you can force it 3-and-out, which the defense got better at, we'll talk about it. That was probably the same moment for me, was the back shoulder catch by Juju.
When it was fourth quarter and they went for it on the 4th and 6 and missed, was that the first drop by Connor on the 4th and 6? Do you remember?
They're all going to run together for me.
I know he had the two drops in the game. I can't remember if that first one on the 4th and 6 was a drop or not. But about that time on that 4th and 6, there was 6:53 left in the game. And at that time, you're thinking, and at the time, it of course was 16-6 at the time. You think, I don't know about this, but props to the defense on this one. I know the first half, the Jaguars. Look, we talked about this before the game, and everybody and their brother knew probably what the Jaguars' game plan was going to be coming into this one. That was going to be a heavy dose of Leonard Fournette, Carlos Hyde, and T.J. Yeldon. They did a good job of rotating those backs in and eating up not only eating up yardage, but eating up clock on top of it. And you started to wonder at halftime, man, is this defense just going to get too worn down? And then, of course, the Steelers, you're thinking, all right, if the Steelers offense can come out and open up this second half and put a long drive together, to get on the board, then okay, maybe that would force the Jaguars into a little bit different game plan. I think my overall take on the thing when it comes to the Jaguars was Bortles. They never got aggressive really offensively. And that, of course, centers around not having to trust in Blake Bortles or the receivers in their passing game as a whole. That stuck out first and foremost, and then of course the penalties that the Jaguars had. I think they had like what 6 15-yard penalties or
Yep.
personal foul penalties in this game, and that obviously surely impacted the game. But the defense did. Sans the what was it, the 80-yard drive following the Roethlisberger interception, which I believe was the Jaguars' second possession of the second half. They, of course, went 10 plays, 80 yards for a touchdown on that drive. But outside of that, they opened up the second half with a 3-and-out. Then they went on that 10-play touchdown drive, and then they went 3-and-outs the rest of the game. And the Steelers defense just did a masterful job at that point of really keeping the game within reach and setting it up for what happened, at the end in the fourth quarter.
And in some really tough situations, because the offense obviously did Pittsburgh no favors. I mean, Jacksonville goes on a 15-play drive, then I think the Steelers go 3-and-out. I think Jacksonville goes on a 6-play drive, gets a field goal out of it. And then Ben throws a pick on the very first play. Your defense is back out there. I mean, the time of possession, I'm not even sure what the time of possession in the first half was, but it was incredibly lopsided. And even by the end result, it was still heavily in Jacksonville's favor. So the defense beat down to it. To only have 3 outside linebackers you rotate, it's a lot of tired bodies. It's a ton of snaps. It's being physical and the aggressive run blocking style of Jacksonville every single snap. But you're right, Dave. I've never seen a football team so scared of the quarterback they're paying multi-million dollars as I've seen with Jacksonville and Blake Bortles. I mean, it was like they didn't have a quarterback. It was like they're running the Wildcat.
First half time of possession, Jaguars 22 minutes 15 seconds. Steelers had it for 7:45. The third down conversions in the first half, which is Steelers. I mean, look, Ben was just not on it.
Awful. We could say he was awful
for most of the game. They were 1-6 on third down, 17% in the first half there. While Jacksonville, look, I mean, say what you will of how Jacksonville moved the ball. Of course, they probably could have had a few more third downs, but they were converting pretty good. I think a few second downs there, but 4 of 11, 36% is not you're not writing home about that. Now, total net yards 169 to 66 in the first half. They did have 141 net rushing yards, and Bortles killed them a couple of times, escaping the pocket. They probably could have had a couple of sacks in there as well, but just their inability. They felt comfortable the whole game, and they never got aggressive. And you go back, you want to talk about a tale of 2 games, really, going back to the game against Carolina, where you jump on a team like that and force them out of what they like to do, and then it just kind of snowballs on them. I know for a fact that had the Steelers been able to put up any quick points in this game to match those 2 early field goals, they would have been able to get the Jaguars out of their comfort zone early, and who knows, that one probably could have snowballed in the same direction that the game against the Panthers did. But as long as the Panthers didn't feel threatened, especially, I mean, look, their defense, say what you will, I mean, their defense outside of those final couple of drives, it played extremely well. I mean, Ramsey, outside of maybe you could probably call that a blown coverage on the long touchdown to Antonio Brown, but I mean, of course, that was kind of a broken play, if you will. Antonio Brown did a good job. The safety, I think it was Tayshaun Gibson on that one, came up on that one, and Jalen just, I don't think decided to go run with AB at that point. But outside of a few big plays, a couple to Juju there, they played extremely well. Miles Jack and Telvin Smith, I thought the linebackers both played a real good game.
Yeah, no, that Jaguars defense, like I said, it's still really good. You throw the numbers out, which the numbers were still good for Jacksonville's defense overall. I think people were understating how solid this Jacksonville team has still been. I just look at the mental toughness from this team. I know it's a thing that's hard to really quantify, and it sounds a little cliche, but it's so tried and true, Dave. I mean, the resolve, the resiliency, you heard that word thrown around a lot by the players after the game, was just that toughness and that never say die attitude that allows this team to come back. It happened against the Colts last year. It's happened in a million games, even games that they lost, like the playoff game against Jacksonville last year or the KC game week 2. And that, when the moment came, the Steelers rose to the top and the Jaguars crumbled, and that's a reflection of coaching and leadership.
All right. Now, after the game, Mike Tomlin said that he was asked about any kind of halftime adjustments, and he said, no, we didn't make any halftime adjustments. Now, what we did see in this game defensively, and I think specifically when the Jaguars would trot out just one wide receiver personnel grouping, we saw Jordan Dangerfield in the game as a third safety, but spent a lot of time, and I think he only played like 10 snaps in total. I know there was like 1 or 2 in the first half that he was on the field, and I think the rest were in the second half. And he was actually, I think, in there for Cody Sensabaugh at corner. And Mike Tomlin said as much during his post-game press conference there. What did you notice anything? Of course, all we still have right now at this point of recording this podcast is the TV view of it. Did you see them doing anything with the fronts differently? I mean, did you see less maybe gap exchanges or anything along those lines? Because, I mean, look, those first couple of drives, when you go back through, and let me say, it was a lot more comfortable going back and watching the game a second and third time than it was, of course, initially. But, I mean, don't forget that the Jaguars came out and ran 5 plays on the first drive and stalled, and then ran 3 plays on their second drive and stalled and punted on both those situations. And Tyson Alualu opened up, I thought, with a good couple series, as did I thought Daniel McCullers. But then, and make no mistake about it, this is a Jaguars offensive line that was patchwork. You had Flowers at left tackle, you had Shatley at center, and I'm not sure at what point they lost their. It
was early. It was in the first quarter, I think.
Their right guard, I think. Who was it? Reed came in.
Yeah, for Khan.
For Khan. I mean, that was a patchwork offensive line, but yet they were still. I mean, how many times did you see McCullers on the ground? You see Alualu kind of turned out of the gaps, and pretty much most of those runs went right up the middle. So did anything stick out to you defensively, scheme wise, in the second half that you didn't see in the first half, other than maybe a little bit more Jordan Dangerfield on the field?
Yeah, I got a train coming, so I'll keep my answer short. I did see some adjustments, but did you see any adjustments, Dave?
No, other than really, and like I said, other than maybe some gap exchange, not seeing so many kind of twists and run blitzes there, that was about it.
Yeah, no, I saw a couple different things. I thought Butler tried a lot. They ran that over front, which they'd only run for 1 play this year. We know that because we charted all. So where the nose tackle slanted into the A gap and you shift against 2, usually it's against multiple tight end sets, so 2 tight ends to the right side. You bring the backside defensive end over, put him as a 3 tech. So we saw that several snaps. They ran a lot of those inside linebacker blitzes, which Tony Romo did a great job of pointing out on the broadcast, and that's not new. Done that, a million times before. There's risk reward to it. It probably hurt this team more than it helped it. Again, Romo had pointed out that they were putting the lineman on the linebacker instead of the fullback to not let those plays be blown up. And then, yeah, they brought on Dangerfield too, which I think was maybe the biggest change and the biggest help. And was it a halftime adjustment? No, because like you said, Dangerfield did this in the first half, but
only like 2 plays or so, right? I mean,
it just depends on what the offense does.
Right, right.
If they bring it, but it wasn't a halftime adjustment, so you saw it. But I think it was an adjustment because I've gone through the charting and there were snaps, I think early to mid second quarter where they were in 13 personnel, 22 personnel, 1 wide receiver sets, and you had Sensabaugh on the field. There were 2 back-to-back snaps where Fournette ripped off 20 yards, and then the next snap Hyde got it for 11 with Sensabaugh on the field. And then from that point forward, when the Jacksonville Jaguars went with 1 wide receiver set, you had Dangerfield come in. So that's not new. This team's done it before, but I would consider it an adjustment because it was literally an adjustment. It just didn't come after halftime.
All right, the rest of the play of the defense.
Yeah, it's just really impressive. Just how stout they were at the end. I'm sure they were
I mean,
tired legs.
I mean, they didn't. I mean, look. I mean, make no mistake about it. Jacksonville's got to be, questioning. You just can't sit on a small lead like that and just continue to run the football. I mean, they should have opened that thing up with, I don't know, some play action
Right.
or something, or an over, a Y cross. I mean, how many times have we seen? I mean, and this is a Steelers team that has struggled some against the tight end position this year. So, shame on them for just trying to think that they were going to win a 16 to, 13 game or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's just them being so scared of their quarterback, where you're running draws on 3rd and 10, and you're not. I'm shocked they didn't really call play action at all. I was waiting for a boot or a deep shot. I mean, I think you probably have the numbers, Dave. I think they only threw the ball past 20 yards, maybe twice the entire game.
Three times, right?
To O'Shaughnessy, I think they tried to hit Westbrook on the next play or somewhere around there, and then a third one. I guess I'm forgetting. Yeah, you got to take a vertical shot. You got 3 receivers that run sub 4.4, and you're setting up that ground game really strong. Steelers are loading the box, and you can't go deep. It was a terrible game plan, and yeah, Jacksonville's got to find an answer at quarterback. Dave, injury report.
Wait, real quick.
Okay.
One other thing on Dangerfield. Do you his versatility. There was a tweet. I forget who was the safety. I think a retired safety that posted all of his playbooks. He was
Will Blackman.
Oh, it was Will Blackman, right? He said that when he was a cornerback, he had one playbook, but that when he switched to safety and he showed a picture, of playbooks and assignments of all the other positions, and that really hit home with me, and it made me think, with kind of, and look, Dangerfield's not going to be a premier. He hasn't been a premier player safety in this league. I mean, he's primarily a special teams guy, a big thumper, but it's kind of a testament maybe to the trust that the team has in him to put him on the field in certain situations and say, like we saw at the cornerback position, because you have to know your assignments. You have to know the position, each position assignment. And I bet at this point of his career, Dangerfield, as long as he's been around the Steelers team, he probably knows where every player should be on the field on every defense.
Yeah, I mean, his skill set isn't varied, but what he does really well, and that's run and hit. And so you can put him down in the box and play in those, tight situations, those heavy personnel groupings, and it was effective. So hats off to Dangerfield. What a story he's been. I mean, last year he got hurt, and, they brought him back midseason on the practice squad. 2 years ago, he got some run on defense, had a good game against Kansas City in that big win. Was that back in 2016? But just a quintessential story of a small school, mostly unknown guy that hung around long enough, proved his worth, and hats off to him because that's a self-made man.
All right, 2 total tackles for him in that game, and like I said, I think he played. Where is it? They've got him 10 snaps here. We'll see if that matches up with your charting there. Of course, he played 23 on special teams. Him and Matakevich, and of course Anthony Chickalo and L.J. Fort.
He's been in the up bag all year, and that shocked me from the beginning. But that's another thing on his plate that he's done a good job at.
All right, you asked about the injury report. We'll have to see if we get any surprises Tuesday when Mike Tomlin talks to the media. But after the game, Mike Tomlin said, the normal bumps and bruises, and that the only guy that he had at the time was Anthony Chickalo with an ankle injury, and he said that happened. He thought it happened late in special teams. And if you go back and watch that final punt by the Jaguars, you can see him get into the middle of that line there and then hit the ground. Now, of course, the camera's not on him very long, but it looked like he may have been ailing there. So I think that might have been when that happened. Like I said, sometimes Mike Tomlin will miss a name or two or not know about a name or two come Tuesday. So we'll see what the update has in that. Obviously, missing the game with injuries were Marcus Gilbert with the knee, Stephon Tuitt with an elbow. We'll have to see. Especially with Tuitt, they sure could use him back this next week. We'll see if he practices. Now the question becomes, when you have just 3 outside linebackers on your 53-man roster, and I mean, we obviously don't know the severity of Chicolo's injury, but you might end up having to you might have to bring up somebody. Ola Adeniyi has yet to practice while he's on IR. I mean, even if they started practicing Ola this week and opening up his window, it's kind of hard to imagine he would be the guy to come up to be promoted, let's say on Saturday, to be a third linebacker. You would think more than likely the possibility of Keon Adams or Farrington Huguenin, being those two guys are already on the practice squad, would have the better chance. And then I guess you could make an argument for Matthew Thomas, maybe getting some snaps in practice outside. So, let's assume Chicolo is going to miss a little bit of time here. What's the course of action going to be?
Well, I mean, you could slice it in most ways, and I wouldn't argue. The only thing I would rule out is, Adeniyi is not getting the call up. Even if they open up his window, that's not enough time to get back into shape. You're just not ready. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of Adeniyi fans out there that don't want to hear it. So it would be either Keon Adams. I mean, it could be Matthew Thomas, but I'm not going to really promote that because they just haven't been eager to play him for most situations. So I'm not sure how likely that is at this point of the season. But they'll have to make a move because obviously you just can't have two guys. I mean, to go only three deep is relatively rare, which I get why they do it, but you have to do a promotion. My guess would be Keon Adams.
My guess would be Farrington, believe it or not.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, that's something that we're probably not going to know for sure. I mean, we'll of course watch the injury reports, and we'll see what Tomlin says Tuesday, and watch Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on the injury report. But if it's looking like Chicolo might not go, Saturday would probably be the day. All right, now who? we're out there in the speculation, so many days out already. But if a roster move has to be made, who? And let's assume that Chicolo's ankle injury isn't season-ending or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Who are you cutting?
I haven't thought about that part at all. I mean, you could do a Zach Banner. He hasn't dressed for a single game this year, and just try to bring him back, after a week. Hopefully he just clears waivers, which he probably would. So, yeah, probably Banner. What do you think?
I mean, would you at all consider cutting Justin Hunter?
I mean, I personally would have cut him a long time ago,
I know that,
cut September 1st, but probably not because I think the team likes the competition between him and James Washington. I think you want to keep that motivation going and not, quote-unquote, end that kind of battle. So as much as I would like to, I don't think those odds are very high.
So you think, you wouldn't cut Jalen Samuels, right?
No, you got to have three running backs.
Right. Trying to look down the list here.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Allen.
What about Brian Allen or Marcus Allen? I mean, one of those two.
Yeah, you could. I mean, they've kept Marcus Allen all year. Obviously, they didn't keep Brian Allen, so it kind of makes you think maybe they would go with Brian Allen, cutting him. But I don't know. I mean, that's all Saturday at 4 o'clock talk. Who knows if Chicolo's going to miss any time at all. So I haven't spent, like I said, a single second thinking about it till you asked me.
All right, let's go directly to the final play call on the Ben Roethlisberger touchdown, and you've already broken that down on SteelersDepot.com. I think it's up there this morning in a film room. Mm-hmm. We've seen them run that a lot of times. Before I even ask you, I'm going to tell you, I didn't like the play call.
Yeah, they've run it so much that it's making me not like it.
You had one timeout left, right?
Yes.
All right. And I mean, that thing's designed to either go on to Connor on the leak out, right, to the flat, or the pitch to, who was that, McDonald, coming across. And really, I think someone said James Washington was coming across on a crosser or something.
On a slant, he was.
Or on a slant, but I don't think that was a good read there. I mean, if you're getting that far into progression anyway, I would think he would probably be not high in that progression there.
No.
I mean, they did it. Who was that? Was it the defensive end in Ngakwe?
Ngakwe, yep. Ngakwe.
He read the shovel pass perfectly. I don't think did Ben even consider Connor out in the flat?
No, because Connor never got his head around, which was a problem in this game. And they've honestly, as much as they run that play, they've never even thrown it to that option. I think it is an option, but they've never even attempted it. The read is generally this. Usually AB comes across the formation and does a little zigzag and then hits the flats. They didn't do it on this play because I think they wanted to try to hide what the play was, because if you do that motion, it's a dead giveaway. So they just had AB line up in his normal spot, but he was well covered because he's running a slant to the sideline and there's just no chance there. So the second option, which is the most common result, is the shovel. They've run this for years now, the shovel pass. They've added some other elements to it. So it's the shovel with Vance, but like you said, Ngakoue had that taken away. Connor doesn't have his head around. Washington is coming backside on the slant, but that's never even a thought. And so Ben went all cowboy and had to do it himself.
I thought I thought his knee was down. I didn't think he'd get.
He did? I thought he was in. Now I'm the pessimist.
Well,
he was in.
Obviously, the replay, and you want to talk about a game of inches, and props to Matt Filer to getting down to 165 pounds real real quick there.
He's never moved like that a day in his life.
I mean, if you're stopped short there and use your final timeout, I know that. I know we're getting it. Look, you don't want yourself to get results biased in this, but you were okay with the call, or no?
With the touchdown?
With the play call on the touchdown.
I mean, I think it's a good play call. I think it's been overused too much, and I think that Fichtner tried to avoid that by not having AB run that motion, but that also takes out your first read on the play. So I've liked it before, but I think in those situations, I think teams know it's coming, and obviously they did. It happened against Kansas City in Week 2 and the second time they tried it. So I think you have to be a little more careful and use it in more moderation than what Fichtner did.
All right. What if he's tackled there and you have to burn your final timeout? What are you doing at that point?
I'm going for it. It's like the Chargers game in whatever year that was, when I think Vic was playing quarterback. You're going for it, and you better get the ball to Connor. I was surprised they didn't run it with Connor once there. I was getting frustrated, to be honest with you.
All right, let's back up a little bit. During that Jaguars series, when 2:22 left, this follows by the way, that Roethlisberger to Vance McDonald touchdown pass. Once again, I go back to, and if people have not seen this yet, that series on ESPN, you have to be an insider to see it. And unfortunately, there's only 5 or 6 breakdowns by Peyton Manning so far, where he goes through the game tape, the all 22 tape on 5 different quarterbacks. I think it's Eli, Rosen, Matthew Stafford. Drawing a blank as to who the other 2 were. Patrick Mahomes is one of them, and I think I'm leaving one out here. Those are so well, they're entertaining and they're educational on top of it. At one point, he talks about one where a throw to the tight end in the end zone. Drawing a blank once again, which I think it was the Eli Manning breakdown on one of the throws in the end zone where he throws it up high, and Manning talks about, look, those type of throws and those type of situations, it should be our ball or nobody's ball type throw. Where you we see Aaron Rodgers do this brilliantly as well too, and Ben, I mean, you even go back to the Carolina game where Ben throws that ball. Where only his guy is going to get it. If it doesn't, and it's not tipped, it's probably going to go out of the back of the end zone and hit a cameraman or something like that. That was a great throw and probably an even better catch by McDonald in contested catch in that situation for the score. Now, fast forward after that score. The Steelers, of course, kick off. Westbrook to the Jacksonville 25. You're at I think the first play was run maybe 2:22. They of course run Fournette right up the middle. Should you use your first time out there? Why didn't Tomlin use his first time out there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why. I probably would have. I don't know if it was the thought of not using all your timeouts so you could have one left, which turned out to be pretty important. So, I mean, all is well that ends well. But I'm just happy they got this stop. That was the most important thing to me, was I don't care how you use the timeouts. If you don't get a stop, none of that matters. Because
essentially you waste, 16 seconds because you had the 2-minute warning that's also serving as another timeout. So, it's the clock time, that who knows, that extra 16 seconds. I mean, you can't look at these things as well, it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish he would have called the timeout there. Well, they ended up having the timeout in their pocket at the end, of course, and fortunately didn't have to use it in that situation. All right, what did you think about the penalty before on that final drive where Roethlisberger was intercepted on the throw to Switzer? I mean, that was obvious, right? I mean, the face
Yeah.
mask.
I think all the calls were good calls, except for the rough and the passer, which we can get into that whole thing. I think it's just a dumb rule, and I think it's so hard for those quarterback or the pass rushers to know how to tackle quarterback. But I thought with the holding call on Washington and the face mask on Switzer in the end zone were blatant calls.
I thought the roughing, the unnecessary roughness on the run by Connor, I mean, that was kind of questionable. Who was that on? Telvin Smith, I think, after the tackle there. I mean, I like the rules or not, with the landing on the quarterback. I mean, he did land on the quarterback, right?
Yeah, well, I think I said on Twitter it was probably the right call, just a dumb rule, which is a sentence we said many times before about rules in the NFL.
All right, now let's go back to another interesting decision that Tomlin made in the third quarter with, where was it there? It was all right, here's the situation. The Steelers, of course, were trailing at that time 9-0, I think. It was second, where was it here? 3rd and 2 at the Jacksonville 34. And Fournette goes up the middle for 1 yard, setting up a 4th and 1. But there was a penalty on Parnell for holding in that situation. Now, the ball was at the Jaguars 30. What would it have been at there? 34, 35. Let's see. They were at the 34, and they got 1 yard. So it would have been at the 35 there. It would have set up a 4th and 1. Why in the heck are you declining that penalty and taking that penalty and letting them have another 3rd down in that situation?
I know I wouldn't have, but
I mean, there's no. I mean, you're up 9-0. There's absolutely no way Doug Marrone's going to go for that in that situation. And even if he does, I mean, it's still early. To me, it makes no sense. Why in the heck would you a bad snap, fumbled snap, whatever, another penalty, whatever. I just don't see the reasoning. Now, of course, it worked out. I mean, you could be results bias here. Yeah, Watt comes in there and gets the sack on that, and almost, he did force a fumble, but the Jaguars obviously recovered it there. It just, to me, I don't understand. I don't think Mike Tomlin was asked about that after the game.
No, I don't think he was. But I guess it was just the idea of this team is so scared of their quarterback, talking about Jacksonville and Blake Bortles, that let them throw it and see if we can make a play and try to get some extra yards. So I guess that was the theory. I'm sure that would probably be the answer that the Tomlin would respond with if asked, but I still thought it was the wrong decision.
Obviously it worked out good, and then after the sack, the Steelers got the ball at their own 45, which ended up being, I think that was their best starting field position of the day. But anyway, it was all for naught anyway.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ben through the on the very next play through the interception that Jack got there.
Yeah, let's go back to the start of the game and just kind of work our way through it, if that's cool with you. The beginning of the game I thought was pretty, uneventful, trading punts. You had the Boswell slip on the kickoff, which wasn't a great start, I guess a precursor to how most of this day would go. I did really like how they kind of used Dan McCullers and Javon Hargrave. Hargrave actually did get the start. He played the very first snap, but they used McCullers in base and Hargrave in nickel, which I thought was a great idea in the rotation because when you go nickel and sub package, you want some good pass rushers in there. And without Stephon Tuitt, Hargrave's clearly the next best guy. It's not Alualu, it's not McCullers, it's certainly not LT Walton. So to have McCullers play in base where you get to track some double teams and try to hopefully hold zone against the Jaguars power running team, and then have Hargrave come in base. And I don't think it's a surprise that Hargrave had one of the most successful pass rushing days of his career, probably the most successful pass rushing day of his career, because he got to play fresh and play nickel and dusted the heck out of that backup right guard.
Well, like I said, I thought at the start in those first couple of series, they were fine up front for the most part, but then it turned on about that on that third Jaguars possession. Hargrave, that the first sack was him a swim over, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to remember what the second one was. Do you remember what his second one was?
I think it came off of a stunt.
A twist? Yeah.
Hayward got his off of a stunt. I know that for sure. I forget what Hargraves was. But 2 on the day. The first Steelers nose tackle with 2 sacks in the game since Oliver Gibson in '98, if you can imagine that.
Wow. Like I said, in that third Jaguars possession on up until the second half, there were a lot of bodies getting turned out of holes. I mean, they were really gashing them, and it was right out, when I was going back and setting up the charting. I was surprised to see how many plays were actually termed as up the middle, and not right guard, left guard kind of thing. So they were just strapping it up and getting to the second level and getting bodies on body there. And a few times McCullers on the ground, a few times Alualu turned out. A few of those I'm sure we'll see on the all 22 if there are any bad fills in there. But it was good old fashioned, straight ahead power running football there.
Yep. So Jacksonville goes on the board early second quarter, 3-0, a Josh Lambo 48-yard field goal. By that point, the Steelers had only had 1 first down, and that was off of a penalty, a 15-yard penalty. I mean, what did you see from this offense for why it just looked invisible early?
Well, a lot of it, I mean, Roethlisberger wasn't sharp with a couple of the passes. One to McDonald over there on the left side. Seemed like he threw behind Juju, I think, coming across on the slant on another one. They couldn't get any footing on the running game. And that's one thing I wrote about a few weeks ago when it comes to James Conner and specifically like his first 5 carries of the game. They've got to do a better job of trying to, when they do give him the football early, to try to get more successful runs in those situations. And they definitely were not doing that. Of course, when Ben's not on target either and throwing high, I mean, on several other throws. I mean, one deep one, I think, early out of bounds to AB. Really just no rhythm whatsoever. I mean, That's the long and short of it. I mean, Ben just was not sharp in the first half, and they couldn't get the run game. And make no mistake, that Jaguars front four is stout, and as are their linebackers.
Yeah, as is really that whole defense. I mean, I think the issue was, there were a lot of problems, but like you said, not being able to get a ground game going, not being successful on first down. So you're in 3rd and 11, 3rd and 6. I mean, they had the 1 3rd and 1 on the first drive with that Ben failed sneak, which, I'm all for them sneaking, maybe a little bit less. That was long.
That was there though for him, wasn't it? I mean, he chose the wrong gap.
I think he bumped into Pouncey. Like, he had the bubble there to the right of him, and he just kind of hit Pouncey and never got his momentum moving forward. And if you don't go forward immediately, that line's pushing your back. So that was a weird situation. What is it with Jacksonville? I mean, I guess there's some clear answers, but why does Ben struggle so much, at least in the regular season, with Jacksonville?
It's a good defense, top to bottom. I mean, they can get pressure with 4. I'm not sure how much we'll have to see when Matthew gets his charting done on how much they actually blitz. I mean, did you see them? They didn't blitz all that much on first blush looking at this thing.
No, and they're not a super heavy blitz team. Sometimes out of empty, they'll get you with Miles Jack, but even then, they were covering guys. So yeah, they got him with the front 4.
I thought for the most part the pass protection was fine. I mean, for most of the game, yeah. Filer got beat one time bad on a spin in the second half. Who was that got him on that spin? Was that Campbell, Calais Campbell, that got him on a move in the second half?
I think Campbell got Villanueva the one time. I'd have to look at it though.
But I thought for the most part the pass protection there, just Ben was just not sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jaguars play a lot of man coverage. Obviously, they have really talented guys in the secondary. They have great answers for how to take away Antonio Brown. They can double him with Boye and bracket coverage, or they can go solo with Jalen Ramsey or double with Jalen Ramsey. There's just a ton of answers, and you're never quite sure what look you're going to get. They're guys that are capable of traveling, which means you can't really move AB and scheme him where you want him to. And it just it's a good defense. It's athletic. They're long and they got great bodies up front in terms of the length and the size. They knocked down that 2-point conversion attempt when it was 16-6. So Jacksonville, like I said, is just a really good defense. The numbers might be down slightly, but it still felt like the same Jacksonville defense to me.
And when you're not on the field, when you're going, I mean, they never that offense could never get in rhythm, at all. Really first almost 3 quarters there. So, but when they did, I mean. Look, I mean, we know that how good this offense can be. Boy, Juju Smith-Schuster, a couple of huge back shoulder catches.
Mm-hmm. And he was my X factor for this game because I felt like AB was going to be taken away properly. Thought Vance was going to have some trouble getting open because of the speed of the linebackers, and I kind of left Juju, especially in the slot, working against DJ Hayden, who's a good nickel corner, but isn't Jalen Ramsey. But again, even when Juju won, it did come against Ramsey and Boye. The back shoulder fade came against Ramsey. The double move on the game-winning drive came against Boye. A high degree of difficulty catches from Juju, and this dude is so mentally tough. And he's not even 22. He's turning 22, I think, Thursday or something. So, I mean, I just love this guy. He's been awesome and was one of the big keys for this victory.
When you look at the James Conner couple of drops that he had, just taking the eye off the football, I think, especially on the second one.
The one that always made me mad the most was, I think it was on the game-winning drive where they ran that slant flat combination they love, and he never got his head around, and it was almost picked. And I just screamed at my television because it was a weird game for James Conner. He's just one of those off games, but like Ben said, I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah. All right. Defensive. Anything else you want to cover in offensively throughout this game?
Well, yeah, we can fast forward, I guess. I mean, you want to talk about the interceptions at all? I think they're relatively self-explanatory, just bad ball placement, Ben doing some dumb stuff. That seemed to be the general theme of this one.
That was a great play by Ramsey in the end zone on the one of them.
Yeah. But that ball even felt a little bit behind. Like, I felt like AB had to reach back for it.
And he had how many, the one overthrow, or how many, 2 overthrows? Were the other 2 overthrows? I know one was.
Well, the first pick was admittedly a really good play by Ramsey.
That was Ramsey undercutting, right?
Yeah. Now I think, well, it's a tough play by Ben, but I think he's got to put a little more over the top on it. But Ramsey came out of his zone and he undercut that. It was a fantastic play. The other one though was him throwing a double coverage. AB wasn't even looking for the football, and Barry Church picked it off pretty easily.
And then the one in the end zone that we just talked about there.
All right. I think the biggest, just to kind of round out the first half action, because it was probably a little less, sorry, I got a phone call there, eventful from the second half, but that defensive stand after, I think it was the Barry Church interception, with a minute 8 left, Jacksonville has the football on the Steelers 46, and they go 3 and out. And to me, that was probably the drive of the game, because your defense is tired. You've been out the entire first half. We saw the time of possession numbers you shared earlier, and Jacksonville comes out 3 straight passes, 3 straight incompletions. And if they get points there, even if it's 12-0, it's now a 2-touchdown game, and it just feels different going in the second half.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, unfortunately, you come out and you can't. I mean, you get the ball back with 41 seconds. You're thinking, man, can they at least get a field goal in this situation? And the Steelers offense couldn't even do that.
Mm-hmm. That's that final play of the half where they try to run that screen to Connor that goes for 1 yard against a 3-man rush. You're just like, well, this game might not turn out well if that's what you're doing on a 3-man rush.
And then I think Pouncey even missed a block on that one too.
Someone missed it. I don't know how you get a 1 yard gain when they're playing the Hail Mary, but that's how the half ended.
All right, third quarter and beyond.
So Steelers get the ball, and you're thinking, okay, it's what was it, a 9-0 game at that point at the half, and let's get some points. We'll turn the tide, go 3 and out instead. And Jacksonville kind of gets back into their thing, but that T.J. Watt sack. T.J. Watt's been great, 10 sacks this year. First Steelers linebacker to have double-digit sacks since Harrison and Woodley, that duo in 2010. I think the biggest difference between Watt and Bud Dupree has been they both gotten pressure. They both had moments, but Watt's ability to finish the play is so much better than Bud Dupree, who's always close, but just struggles to finish that play.
And we saw him be able to show a little bit of that bend yesterday as well, too, with Watt, and you always like to see those strip sacks.
With Watt you're talking about?
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a big teaching point. Now, on that play, the strip sack fumble was kind of him just by necessity because he wasn't clean to the block. But so many of these pass rushers are now being taught just go for the football because of all the rules about how you just can't touch the quarterback. Let's not try to tackle the quarterback. Let's attack the football, and we'll try to get the strip sack fumble that way. So I think that's honestly probably been an increasing teaching point for these pass rushers given the new NFL rules.
All right, after the Steelers got the ball back there in kind of the 10-minute, 10:43 mark and all that's the drive that, of course, ended with the Ramsey interception in the end zone. Jacksonville gets the ball back, and then that ended up being the only time they moved the football in the second half there. Big play on the pass to Fournette. Was one of those for, I think, 20 yards. They had three, I think, explosive plays. Well, two of their explosive plays, I think, came on that drive. It opened up with the Fournette pass for 26 yards, I think, and then later on in that drive, he had another pass for 20 yards. I think they had three explosive plays in that game, and two of them came on that drive. And then obviously it ended with the Fournette 1-yard plunge at that point. And then the Steelers. That's finally when the Steelers offense came alive a little bit with the two-play 79-yard touchdown to Antonio Brown.
Yeah, the biggest thing that Ben says is answering touchdowns with touchdowns. And so if Fournette gets a 2-yard score with 2:12 left, it's 16-0. You got to make a move. And it came off of a busted play, but Ben finds AB for 78 yards. The flag was on the Jaguars' corner for tackling James Washington. But, Antonio Brown is so good at pretty much everything. But I think one of the things he's the best at, and it doesn't get talked about very often, is his ability to work himself open in those scramble drills, because Ben said it after the game, they're running curl flat to that side. AB's basically lone responsibility is run the curl and don't drift to the middle because they're trying to hit Vance over the middle. That was the first read in the progression was Vance on a crosser. But that play breaks down, and as soon as it does, you can see Brown goes from his curl and just runs to the middle of the field, running a deep post. And like you said, maybe some sort of breakdown, the coverage gets screwed up because of the extended play. But Ben, with his first great throw to hit AB finishes it, and credit to the offensive line for giving Ben the right amount of time on that play too.
And that basically was right at the end of the third quarter. So how were you feeling? How were you feeling at 16-6?
Still nervous. She didn't get the 2-point conversion. That pass gets batted down, trying to run a little Hank route over the middle to Jesse James. And I just, at that point, the defense had started to kind of get it together, but you just saw Jacksonville go on this long drive. And while it was good the Steelers scored, it's also meaning your defense is coming on the field right away after a 10-play drive or whatever it was. And it just, at that point, the defense hadn't gotten those stops yet. So I felt like, okay, they're going to go into their ball control offense. They're going to run a 8-minute drive, get a measly field goal, but that's going to be enough to just eke out this win. So I was still very nervous at that point.
Well, they did try to run ball control. They ran, on the Jaguars' next possession, ended up, 2 runs, and then the pass to Yeldon out to the right side, I think, where Sensabaugh made the tackle short of the chains, and that, of course, they punted there, but the Steelers couldn't do anything once again. They get the ball at their own 17 and go 3 and out. That drive ended with the Roethlisberger being sacked. I think that might have been the one that I'm thinking about that Campbell got the best of Matt Filer on right there.
No, I think that was Villanueva.
Oh, was it the Villanueva one?
Pretty sure that one. Okay, I think the second one might have been more on Filer.
All right. And then Barry had, outside, he had what, one kind of meh punt in that game. I mean, early on he was money. Unfortunately, we're having to see him out there that many times.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Barry, one of his better games, I guess you could say. And that's
coverage could have been better though. I thought the punt coverage wasn't the best this game.
But DHB sure can get downfield, can he?
Yeah, dude, he's the best. He's the best.
All right, Jaguars again. They punt the ball back to them, then they go 3 and out again on back-to-back sacks. That's the one with Vince Williams, and then the one with Cameron Hayward, and I believe that one was on a stunt there. Mm-hmm. And that was big from the fact that they were already the first play was Fournette up the middle to 2 yards, and they're at the Steelers' 39-yard line, and you're thinking, oh great, they're the easy field goal situation here, but they came away with no points again, and Cook had to punt. Steelers get the ball back, but unfortunately after a couple first downs in there, they stalled again, and then that was the one where
I think that was what you said earlier, the Connor drop.
that might have been the first Connor drop over there to the left side.
Yeah, it was. 4th and 6, Jaguars 43, incomplete to Connor. Yep, that was it.
So then you have another sudden change right there near midfield, and Steelers defense comes up big. Fournette for a loss, and then no gain, and then Bortles incomplete over to the right side to that was the one that Bortles threw it out of bounds, didn't he? On that one to Chark.
I'm looking at the box score. It says defense by Hargrave. That was when I think Hargrave batted down.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That is that one. All right.
Yeah.
I thought that was the one he threw away. And then Cook punts again, and then that's when that's finally when the Steelers get on track there.
With 5 minutes left, they decide, hey, maybe we should move the football.
Yeah, and you had a couple big plays, of course, or at least one to Juju for 21 yards on that drive.
That was the back shoulder. That was the one that changed the game.
And that one. What did Roethlisberger say about he's kind of the hero after the game? But his 2 catches were big. I mean, he had several catches in that second half there. Both him and AB finished with more than 100 yards. Both of them finished with more receiving yards than Bortles.
AB had more. Juju tied 104. Bortles passed 10 of 18, 104 yards. If they would have lost this game, it would have been so depressing to lose to a quarterback in this era with those kind of numbers.
All right, so 1st and 10. We already talked about the Vance McDonald touchdown there, and then defense just continued to keep the Jaguars' offense bottled up. At that point, you're thinking, man, are they going to stay in? Are they on the 3rd down and 5 to just run up the middle? I understand they want to probably get the Steelers to burn their timeouts on the other side of the 2-minute warning there, but I mean, you have a chance to win the game right there, basically on that play, right? 3rd and 5.
I mean, it showed the level of just disrespect to Bortles, not in that kind of totally negative way, but it felt like it was almost a read option play, but I don't think it was. I think it was a design give to Fournette. I mean, watch Dupree on that play. He doesn't care about Bortles at all. He crashes down hard. If Bortles keeps that, and the broadcast showed it, that's a first down. I mean, no question about it. Dupree crashes down hard. He slips, but he keeps Fournette inside. And then Vince either was free or got off a block, I'm not sure, and stood Fournette up at the line of scrimmage. I thought Vince played a really great game. He got a sack, some of those big run stops. Yeah, I mean, that, like I said, that's the Jaguars being entirely, totally scared of who they have at quarterback. And even his best asset, which are his legs, they wouldn't even use it then. And it was probably just a true give, not even a read. Because, like I said, if Bortles keeps that, that's a first down.
All right, 3rd and 5 in that same situation. What are the Steelers doing in that situation? They're passing, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're not giving up the middle. And that just shows the difference between teams that have franchise quarterbacks and teams that are paying franchise quarterbacks but don't actually have one like Jacksonville.
So what's there? It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, it's hard to keep that many defensive players. How many did they have come back from last year? Something like 8 other defensive players. Talking about the Jaguars last year. I mean, and now there's rumblings about Ramsey and this, that, and the other. It's going to be hard. It's going to be kind of hard to keep that many players, I think, together moving forward with them. Here's to the Steelers not maybe having to play the Jaguars.
Yeah, for real.
for a little while there. And then, of course, the final drive, we already covered that kind of pretty much top to bottom there. All right, where are we at now? I mean, the Steelers had 4 explosive plays in the game. They had, of course, the 3 turnovers. I mean, it wasn't a very good Tox game for them when you add up explosive plays and turnovers in that game. Once again, starting field position not great. The starting at the 45 that we talked about after that TJ Yeldon sack in the 3rd quarter, I think was the best starting field position of the game. Need more splash plays on defense.
Yeah, but on a day where, I mean, Jacksonville just never, refused to throw the football, it is tough to get splashed. The defense made their stops. It's a game where the defense, won the Steelers the game in the sense that they kept the score low in the first half and they got, four straight 3-and-outs after an offense that rolled all over him. When you're tired, when, you're on the road in a difficult environment, that's hats off to the defense for this one because if they didn't play the way, didn't elevate their play, the offense has no chance to come back.
All right, before we start winding down our final thoughts here, guys and gals, sure, watching football is fun, but it's more entertaining when you have some action on the games. Unfortunately, I had too much action on the games yesterday. Not a good day for Uncle Dave. Guys, you've heard us talking about this for weeks, and some of you are still on the sidelines. Whether you're an expert or a rookie, you should be betting at mybookie.ag. If you're the kind of guy or gal that likes to bet a little and win a lot, like playing the numbers on the roulette table, you can create a big parlay. Pick 3 teams and win. If you hit all 3, you can turn $100 into $600 on 6-to-1 odds on those 3-to-1 three-team parlays. There's so much to bet on. College basketball in gear now. College football starting to get into the home stretch. NBA in full force now, as is the NHL. Custom props, even esports, you name it. MyBookie.ag has it. MyBookie is one of the one bet we know you'll be happy with all year. We recommend these guys because we really trust them. MyBookie has been in business for years. They've got great online reviews, and their mobile site is easy to use. Sign up this week, and MyBookie will give you a 50% deposit bonus to jumpstart your bankroll. It's a great way to bank even more money when you win. Also, if you're on Twitter, make sure to follow MyBookie.ag on Twitter at BetMyBookie. They personally respond to every mention and direct message they get, not to mention that they've given away more than $10,000 in free money to their followers this football season. You'll be the first to know as soon as new odds and props are posted by following them on Twitter at BetMyBookie. Don't miss out on one of the best weeks to bet in sports all year. Log on to MyBookie right now and use our promo code, TERRIBLE, and to get your 50% deposit bonus. That's promo code TERRIBLE. You play, you win, you get paid. All right, final kind of thoughts. Is the jury still out on? I mean, in this 6-game winning streak, I mean, what have we learned other than this is a resilient bunch that, push comes to shove, they can get it done, especially against the run in the second half when they're down.
Yeah, I think it's the realization this defense has seriously improved. Now, again, we've said it a million times. There are going to be some big tests ahead, and, we'll get our better answer and complete answer as the season rolls along. But the defense is capable of picking up the offense. It's not always the offense like, big brother, little brother dragging the Steelers defense along and just trying to keep them propped up enough. So yeah, it's their ability that they can win when they're low-scoring games, they can win high-scoring games, and they can just win in any situation. So just 2 other quick thoughts on that last drive. Again, that Juju catch against Boye on Steelers 38, 35-yard gain, just a great play by him. And then AB really didn't beat Ramsey much Sunday, but that 3rd and 10, 25-yard completion on that slant over the middle was a great throw by Ben and a great catch and ability to win off the line by AB, gets the Steelers down to the 2 and sets that up. So hats off to AB there for making that play, in that clutch moment.
Almost scored there.
Almost, yeah. And then, that but still, just to win and get in that situation, because there's only 50 seconds left. It's 3rd and 10. You don't convert there. It's a really dire situation. Last question for you, Dave, from this game. I got it a lot. I saw a lot of the comments. I'm not surprised by it. But people getting mad, at least when the score was 16-0, people getting mad that Tomlin gave the Steelers off to a Wednesday. Did you see that a lot? Was that thought ever in the back of your mind, or any reaction to that whole situation?
I was getting more of they need to pull Ben and put Dobbs in.
Yeah,
I mean,
fair enough.
Look, I mean, they deserve those days off. I mean, to have kind of a mini bye like that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that really played a role in it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think one important piece of clarity is that this is what the Castro said or this week, actually, because it seemed a little different telling from what I kind of inferred from right after the game. But Tomlin had told the players before the Panthers game, hey, if you guys go win this, we have a bone for you. We got some, little gift for you if you win this one. So it wasn't something that Tomlin said after the game. It was something he kind of teased as a carrot on a stick before the Panthers game. Steelers hanging 52 points, maybe a little extra motivation there. So, of course, by that point, you have to follow through. You can't go back on it and say, show up Monday like usual or whatever. So I think that was, and I don't think it really had much of an effect. Wednesday's your big game plan install day anyway, and you get back on your schedule. It wouldn't have been that much different had you played on a Sunday to the start of your regular work week. And like you said, the players should just deserve that time off.
All right, around the NFL real quickly. The Ravens beat the Bengals. Both those teams are 5-5. Lamar Jackson had over you. I get it with his athleticism and all like that, but you just can't have that guy running that much. I mean,
So 27 attempts?
Sooner or later, it's going to come back to bite you because these guys in the NFL can pop you hard. So, props to Baltimore for getting the win there. They're now, believe it or not, they're the 6th seed in the AFC. And like I said, both those teams are 5-5. So the Steelers get a little bit of breathing room there. Of course, the Cleveland Browns were on a bye this week. Coming out of the bye, what did I say? I think Cleveland gets the Bengals. Does that sound right? Yeah, the Bengals get the Browns at home. The Ravens host the Raiders in Week 12. And, of course, the Steelers travel to Denver to play the Broncos, who got a last-second victory of their own, come from behind against the Chargers. Did you see the end of that game, the highlights or whatnot, where Phillip Rivers on that third down just threw the football into the ground? If you haven't, go back and watch.
Yeah, I haven't. I saw the field goal. That was it.
Go back and watch the end of that game there. So, big game, of course, tonight, Monday night. The Rams host the Kansas City Chiefs. If you're a Steelers fan, you're rooting hard and heavy for the Chiefs in that one. The Patriots, of course, were on a bye, so that number 6 seed in the AFC really seems to be up at grabs at the moment. Like I said, the Chargers did lose. Alex Smith, man. And what was that? What was the years? 33 years to the day.
To the day. Yep, to the day.
The Joe Theismann injury, and of course both those guys play for the Red. The only way that thing could have been weirder is if it happened on a Monday night and against the Giants. I mean, just weird, but I mean, sad to see his season come crashing to an end. You have to think the Redskins probably are about close to being done at this point. I mean, you look across the NFL. I mean, the Eagles get. How about those Saints?
Week 16, man, that's going to be a fun game against Pittsburgh.
Well, I mean, who knows? That thing might. Who knows when it comes to the Saints? They keep winning. That might be a meaning. We'll see what happens with the Rams, of course. That game still could very well be a meaningless one for either or both of those teams, Saints and the Steelers.
You don't think there'd even be playoff seeding implications? I mean, they might have the divisions locked up.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Saints aren't too far off at 9-1. I mean, we're talking still several weeks. I mean, who do Saints have here? They have.
I mean, they'll roll, but I imagine the Rams going to be right there with them.
I mean, they got
number 1 seed.
They got the Falcons and the Cowboys, and then they get the Buccaneers and the Panthers. So let's say they win 3 out of those 4 games. They're going to be 12-2. I mean, unless the Rams keep pace. I mean, if the Rams keep pace, then yeah, then you're battling for a number 1 seed. I mean, I obviously odds are good that Week 16 game against the Steelers is going to mean something. But I mean, if the Rams, if something happens to the Rams in the next couple of weeks, I mean, who's to say?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I guess for me, I should turn my attention more to Denver because that's going to be a tough Denver team. That's a good Denver team. The record doesn't really indicate it. They got a strong running back in Phillip Lindsay that's a game breaker. They got some talented receivers. I know that line's beat up, but we've heard that story before. And some pass rushers, too. They could, be Von Miller versus Matt Filer next week. I mean, I think Filer's done a great job. But if Gilbert can't go, that's going to be one heck of a test for Filer.
Yeah, their 2 outside linebackers, I think, have 19. I wrote about that this morning. 19 sacks combined between those two. Von Miller, of course, has 10, and I think he got his first interception of the year against the Chargers on Sunday. There, once again, their offensive line. I take no solace in the Steelers' defense playing a beat-up offensive line at this point. But they have they've had quite a few changes. I think at everywhere except the 2 tackle positions with them. So Lindsey, obviously, kind of a shifty, smaller back, do everything back, if you will. I want to see, much like McAfee with the Panthers, make that guy have to pass block, and go from there.
Yeah.
But of course, we'll get more into a breakdown of the Broncos on our Wednesday show. Hopefully, have a beat writer who covers them on to help us break them down. Anything else we got to cover?
No, I think that's everything, Dave.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Send us your thoughts on the game. The Terrible Podcast at gmail.com. Once again, Alex and I should be back on Wednesday, starting to giving final thoughts on the Jaguars game, and then starting to preview the game against the Denver Broncos. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.